The alien king abandoned his Frail daughter on Earth, but one human turned her into a force the galaxy feared. The girl fell from the sky on a night when Earth had 3 moons. She did not arrive in a royal ship. She did not arrive with an army. She arrived inside a damaged escape pod that crashed into the frozen mountains of northern Canada. By the time the rescue team found her, the pod was half buried in snow. Its metal shell was unlike anything humans had ever seen. There were no engines, no controls, no visible weapons. Only one strange symbol burned across its side. A circle divided by 7 lines. Dr. Elias Ward was the first human to enter the wreck. He was not a soldier. He was an engineer who studied unusual objects recovered from deep space. Inside the pod, he found a girl. She looked almost human. She had pale silver hair, dark blue eyes, and very thin skin that seemed to glow under the emergency lights. She was barely breathing. Her body was covered with small black marks that looked like burns. Elias carefully lifted her from the broken seat. Then the girl's eyes opened. She whispered one word, "Earth." Elias froze. She knew the name of his planet. Before he could ask another question, the emergency lights inside the pod turned red. A hologram appeared above the floor. An alien figure stood inside it. He was enormous, wearing black armor covered with gold symbols. His face was cold. His voice filled the small chamber. "To whoever finds my daughter." Elias stared at the hologram. "My name is King Varric of the Orinth Dominion." The alien king looked toward the unconscious girl. "Her name is Lyra." His expression did not change. "She is weak. Her body cannot survive the genetic pressure of our royal bloodline. She has failed every test given to her." Elias looked at Lyra. The king continued, "I am leaving her on Earth because the Dominion has no place for weakness." The hologram flickered. "If she survives without me." Then came the final sentence. "Do not bring her back." The hologram disappeared. For several seconds, Elias said nothing. Then he looked down at the frightened alien girl in his arms. She was shaking. "Your father left you here," he whispered. Lyra slowly opened her eyes. "He did not leave me," she said weakly. Elias frowned. "He abandoned me." Outside, something exploded in the sky. The rescue team rushed toward the windows. 7 enormous ships had appeared above the clouds. Elias looked at Lyra. The girl looked back at him. "They found me." The first ship opened its weapons, and every human radar system on Earth suddenly went dark. The attack never came. Instead, the 7 ships simply remained above the planet. They were waiting. Elias took Lyra to a hidden research facility beneath the Canadian mountains. Doctors examined her for 3 days. They found something impossible. Lyra's bones were not made entirely from normal biological material. Tiny structures existed inside them. They looked like microscopic machines, but they behaved like living cells. Her blood contained particles that reacted to electromagnetic fields. Her brain produced unusual patterns whenever she dreamed. And every few hours her heart stopped, then restarted. The doctors were terrified. Lyra was not dying. Her body was changing. Elias was the only person who believed she might survive. He spent nights studying her biology. He discovered something strange. Lyra's body did not appear to be failing. It appeared to be waiting for something. One night he placed his hand against the glass of her medical chamber. Lyra opened her eyes. "Why are you helping me?" "Because someone should." She stared at him. "Humans always help strangers?" "No." Elias smiled. "Humans are usually complicated." For the first time, Lyra smiled too. Days passed. The alien ships did not attack. Then a message arrived. Every communication system on Earth received it at the same time. King Varric appeared above millions of screens. "Earth." His voice was calm. "You are holding a daughter of the Orinth royal bloodline." Elias watched from the underground facility. Varric continued, "Return her immediately." The United Nations demanded answers. Elias did not. Instead, he looked at Lyra. She was standing beside him. Her hands were shaking. "I don't want to go back," she said. Elias nodded. "Then you won't." The message from the king ended. But another signal appeared. It came from somewhere beyond the moon. A single sentence repeated again and again. "The royal bloodline has awakened." Elias stared at the screen. Lyra went pale. "I know that signal." "What is it?" She looked toward the stars. "It means my father is not the one we should fear." Elias moved Lyra to a deeper facility. The scientists began studying the strange signal. They discovered that it was not being transmitted by the alien fleet. It was coming from a structure hidden on the far side of the moon. Humanity had never detected it. The object was enormous, almost 4 kilometers long. It was buried under several kilometers of lunar rock, and it was older than human civilization. Much older. Elias personally led the expedition. Lyra insisted on coming. When they reached the underground structure, the doors opened before anyone touched them. Inside was a corridor made of dark metal. There were symbols on the walls. Elias recognized none of them. Lyra stopped. Her eyes widened. This place knows me. They entered a circular chamber. At its center stood a machine. It looked like a giant black tree made from metal. Thousands of thin branches reached toward the ceiling. Then the machine activated. A human voice filled the chamber. Not an alien voice, a human voice. To the child of Varric. Lyra stepped forward. The voice continued. If you are hearing this message, then the royal family has failed again. Elias stared at Lyra. Again? The recording continued. 3,000 years ago, humans met the Orinth. Images appeared around the chamber. Ancient humans stood beside the same alien species. But the humans in the images were not primitive. They wore advanced suits. They traveled between stars. They built enormous structures around planets. The recording showed humans and Orinth working together. Then the images changed. A war began. The Orinth turned against humanity, but the humans did not destroy them. Instead, they disappeared. The recording ended with a final message. Humanity did not lose the war. They chose to leave. Lyra looked at Elias. Why? The machine answered, because something was coming. The chamber suddenly shook. A new image appeared. A black shape covered an entire galaxy. Elias stepped backward. What is that? Lyra whispered the answer. The Hollow. The Hollow was not an army. It was a phenomenon. At least that was what the ancient record suggested. It moved through galaxies like a shadow. Stars disappeared. Planets became silent. Civilizations lost memories. Entire species forgot their own history. The ancient humans had discovered it first. They had built a network of hidden machines to monitor its movement. Then they realized something terrifying. The Hollow could not be destroyed. It could only be delayed. Humanity had chosen to disappear because the Orinth had begun using a dangerous technology that could attract the Hollow. The royal bloodline was connected to that technology. Lyra looked at the machine. So my father knows. Elias nodded. He probably knows more than anyone. A new message appeared. This time it came directly from King Varric. His face looked different. He was afraid. Lyra, she stared at him. The king spoke quietly. I lied to you. Lyra's expression hardened. You abandoned me. I did. Why? Varric looked toward something outside the hologram. The Dominion is collapsing. Elias stepped closer. Why? Varric answered. Because the Hollow has found us. The hologram showed hundreds of alien worlds. One by one, they disappeared. The only reason Earth has survived is because humanity has remained hidden. Elias looked at Lyra. Varric continued. My scientists discovered that your body carries the last biological key to the ancient human network. Lyra's eyes widened. You knew? I knew. Then why leave me? The king lowered his head. Because the Hollow was following you. Silence filled the chamber. Varric looked directly at his daughter. I believed Earth would protect you. Lyra's voice became cold. No. She stepped closer to the hologram. You believed humans would die protecting me. Varric said nothing. That silence was the answer. The next morning, Earth changed forever. Millions of alien ships appeared around the solar system. Not to attack humanity. To escape. Alien families filled evacuation stations. Refugees arrived from worlds that humans had never heard of. Some were soldiers. Some were children. Some were scientists. They all carried the same story. The Hollow was coming. Earth had only days. The world governments argued. Some wanted to close the borders. Others wanted to help. Elias stood before the International Council. If we shut them out, we become the civilization they believe we are. A general looked at him. And if we let them in, we may bring the Hollow with them. The room became silent. Lyra walked forward. I am the reason it is coming. Everyone looked at her. I can leave. Elias shook his head. No. If I leave Earth, the Hollow may follow me somewhere else. Exactly. Lyra looked confused. Elias pointed toward the lunar structure. It isn't following you because you're a target. He paused. It's following you because you're a signal. The scientists finally understood. Lyra was not the key to the ancient network. She was the network's missing transmitter. Her body was sending a signal into deep space, a signal that could activate every ancient human machine. But it could also tell the Hollow exactly where humanity was hiding. Elias looked at the calculations. If we can control the signal. We can hide Earth again, Lyra said. Elias nodded. But there is another possibility. What? We can use it to communicate with the Hollow. Everyone stared at him. The plan was almost impossible. Human scientists, alien scientists, and refugees worked together inside the lunar facility. For the first time in thousands of years, humans and Orinth stood beside each other. The ancient machines began activating. Across the solar system, forgotten structures came alive. One existed inside Jupiter, another beneath the ice of Europa. A third was hidden inside Saturn's rings. There were hundreds, then thousands. They were not weapons. They were sensors. Humanity had built a giant listening network. Elias finally understood the purpose. The ancient humans had not been preparing to fight the Hollow. They had been trying to understand it. The Hollow was not simply destroying civilizations. It was reacting to something. Fear, violence, aggression. Every civilization that fought it made it stronger. Lyra suddenly understood. That's why the Orinth lost. Elias nodded. Their empire spent thousands of years fighting everything. Lyra looked toward the stars. And humanity? We walked away. The answer changed everything. Humanity's greatest survival strategy had never been its weapons. It had been restraint. But the Hollow was already entering the solar system. The stars began disappearing, one after another. The room went dark. Then Lyra screamed. A black mark appeared across her skin. The ancient machine reacted. A voice whispered through every speaker. We remember you. Lyra collapsed. And every human system on Earth received a second message. We remember humanity. Elias carried Lyra into the central chamber. The machines were glowing. The alien refugees watched in fear. Outside, the stars vanished one by one. King Varek arrived in person. He stepped into the chamber wearing no armor. For the first time, he looked less like a king and more like a father. He walked toward Lyra. I was wrong. She looked at him. You were afraid. Yes. You chose fear over me. Varek lowered his head. Yes. Lyra slowly stood. I don't forgive you. The king nodded. I understand. Then Elias noticed something strange. The Hollow had stopped. Not completely, but its movement had slowed. The ancient machines were sending out a signal. Not a weapon, a message. Elias looked at Lyra. What did the first humans tell it? Lyra closed her eyes. She listened. Then she spoke. They told it they were sorry. Elias stared. Sorry? For what they had done. The Hollow had been following civilizations, because each civilization eventually destroyed others to survive. Humanity had been the only civilization that stopped. That was why the Hollow remembered humanity, not as prey, as proof. Proof that intelligent life could choose something other than endless conflict. But the signal was incomplete. Something was missing. Elias studied the machine. One final message. Lyra looked at him. What message? Elias smiled sadly. The one humanity never sent. The message was simple. Every human communication system on Earth connected to the lunar network. Every alien ship listened. Every surviving civilization listened. Then Elias spoke. Not as a soldier, not as a scientist, as a human. We know you are afraid. The Hollow stopped moving. We know you have seen civilizations destroy themselves. The stars remain dark. We know you believe survival requires control. Elias looked at Lyra. But we learned something different. His voice traveled across space. Survival is not about being the strongest. It is about deciding what you will not become. For several seconds there was no response. Then something happened. A star returned. Then another. Then another. The blackness began to retreat. The hollow did not attack. It listened. Lyra stepped forward. Her body began glowing with soft blue light. The ancient machines responded. She was not controlling them. She was connecting them. Humanity had spent thousands of years hiding from the galaxy. Now Lyra was connecting the galaxy to humanity. The hollow sent one final message. It was not words. It was a memory. Every civilization saw the same image. A young human child standing beside an alien child. Both were looking at the stars. Neither understood the other. But neither was afraid. The hollow had been born from the fear of intelligent life. And for the first time it encountered something stronger: trust. The final battle never happened. There was no great explosion. No fleet destroyed another fleet. Instead, the galaxy watched as the darkness slowly disappeared. The hollow moved away from inhabited space. The stars returned. Worlds that had been silent for centuries began sending signals again. The Orinth Dominion survived, but it was no longer an empire. King Varric surrendered his royal authority. He returned to his homeworld and opened its borders to refugees. He spent the rest of his life rebuilding the civilization he had once ruled through fear. Lyra stayed on Earth. Her body changed permanently. She could hear the ancient network. She could sense distant civilizations. But she was no longer weak. Not because humans had given her a weapon. Not because they had turned her into a soldier. They had taught her something her father never understood. Strength was not the ability to make others obey. Strength was the ability to protect someone weaker without demanding anything in return. Years later, Lyra became the first ambassador of the new Galactic Alliance. She stood before thousands of alien representatives in a human-built station, above Earth. Behind her was a massive window. The planet below shone blue and white. A young alien asked her a question. "Why did humanity save my world?" Lyra smiled. "Because someone once saved me." The alien looked confused. "Who?" Lyra turned toward the crowd. A human named Elias Ward. Elias was standing quietly at the back of the hall. He was older now. His hair had turned gray. He smiled when Lyra looked at him. The galaxy had once called humanity weak. The Orinth had believed Earth was primitive. The Hollow had believed every civilization would eventually choose violence. They had all been wrong. Humanity had not become the strongest species in the galaxy. It had become something more difficult, a species that knew it could destroy, and chose to build instead. Years later, children across hundreds of worlds learned about the night the stars disappeared. They learned about the alien princess who came to Earth broken and frightened. They learned about the human engineer who refused to abandon her. And they learned about the message that changed the galaxy. But Lyra remembered something different. She remembered the first night in the mountains. She remembered waking inside the broken pod. She remembered seeing one human standing beside her. She had expected fear. Instead, Elias had simply asked if she was hurt. That was the moment her life changed. Not when the ancient machines awakened. Not when the Hollow disappeared. Not when the galaxy finally respected humanity. It began with one simple human decision. A stranger had fallen from the sky, and one human had decided that she was worth saving.